أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Welcome back to Receiving Noor Quran study of Surah Luqman, and we're doing the second part of our study. This is our second meeting, and without further delay, I'll turn the mic to Sister Yamina. Bismillah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum everybody. So inshallah, as far as I remember from the question, I don't remember the whole question that Esma had asked last week, was something related to the grammar, the form of the words. Like the word muhsin in Arabic is an active participle. It's the active participle of the verb ahsana. Like mu'min is the active participle of amana, to believe. So mu'min is believer, the one who is actively believing. And the muhsin is the one who is doing actively practicing the ihsan. Ihsan is the gerund, the ing form of the same verb, from the same verb. So, as we had said, both being a muhsin and being a muhsin is, we'll go back to the hadith of Gabriel, where ihsan is defined for us. So, muhsin is the one who practices ihsan. And like the believer, it's an active form. So the fourth word itself is an ayah, sign, hint, that's telling us that this is something that involves a choice. So we said, wisdom and guidance and mercy are given to us, but they are given to particular people when we embody particular characteristic and qualities. And those qualities, we embody them by choice. We choose to be a muhsin. We choose to be a believer. We choose to believe. And once we choose to believe, then some things are going to be given to us. For instance, guidance. We will be guided. So the first verses, the first 5 verses were Al-Lameen. Those are signs of the wise book, providing guidance and mercy to the muhsins who establish worship and pay the zakat, the poor due, and of the hereafter they are certain. These are following their Lord's guidance, and these are the successful. And last week, we considered the beginning of chapter 2 of the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah. And because the first verses reminded of those, and in chapter 2, it was Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So it was ALM, that book, let there be no doubt about it. It is meant to be a guidance for all the God conscious. So in chapter 2 in Baqarah, we told that book, and there is no qualification, is guidance for the God conscious, the muttaqin. In this chapter, in Surah Luqman, chapter 31, we're told that not that book, but those signs, those verses of the book, the wise book, the book now is qualified as wise, provide guidance. They provide guidance, and not only guidance, like in the other chapters, also mercy to the muhsinin. This time it's not the God conscious, but the muhsinin. So now we have those signs of the wise book. is guidance and mercy to the muhsinin. Now I remembered another chapter of the Quran, which is chapter 27, Surah An-Naml, and it also starts in a very similar way. It says there, Ta'sin, again those disconnected letters, تلك آيات القرآن وكتاب مبين هدى وبشرى للمؤمنين. So Ta'sin, those are the signs of the Quran, a book clear in itself and clearly showing the truth. And this time it is guidance and glad tidings, and to whom? To the believers. So we have that book, guidance to the God conscious. Then we have those signs of the wise book, guidance and mercy to the muhsinin. And we have those signs of Quran, the clear book. So you find the eyes here, but there's the clear book, is guidance and good news to the believers. So if we remember in the hadith of Gabriel, Gabriel asks Prophet Muhammad والسلام, about first Islam, surrender, then Iman, belief, then Ihsan. And Ihsan, let's for the moment say, not only doing the good, but being the good, the beautiful. Hassan is both good and beautiful. Embodying the good and beautiful, living according to the good and beautiful. So there, each time when Gabriel, peace be upon him, asked Muhammad والسلام, about Islam, then he told him the 5 pillars of Islam as we know them, and then the pillars of Iman as we know them. And then when it came to Ihsan, when he said, and so what is Ihsan? It is to worship God as though you are seeing Him. So what is God as though if you do not see Him, He truly sees you. You know, you are aware that at least He sees you. So to worship God as though you are seeing Him is the state of Ihsan. So from this hadith, it is understood that Ihsan is a higher level of awareness. However, Ihsan includes belief, Iman, and Islam surrender. So they are all like into Ihsan is comprises all the others. The Muhsin is also a Muttaqi. He is a God conscious. He is a Muslim. He is a surrender, and he is a Mu'min, a believer. So these are not different people. They are different characteristics of possibly the same people. You can be a surrenderer who is not yet a muhsin, but if you're a muhsin, then definitely you are a surrenderer and a believer.
So, Sister Yamina, so just to kind of recap and mirror you back what I'm hearing you saying. So this means that the Quran, when it's talking about guidance in all of these 3 example verses that you shared, there is a reference to those signs, that book being guidance for people with certain qualities, certain attitudes, certain way of being and acting in the world. So either they're muttaqeen, God conscious, or they are mu'mineen, believers, or like in the Surah Luqman, they are muhsineen, the people who doers of beautiful, or people who embody beautiful and good. So it is interesting because it could have said this is a guidance for everybody. In a sense, of course, everybody is called and embraced in that call of the Quran. At the same time, this isn't something that happens. This guidance cannot happen without our cooperation with it and responding to it. So it comes back and highlights. It reminded me of this verse that says, let those, something like this, that those who have a heart, let them hear. So here's a reminder, but let those who have a heart, let those who have the willingness hear. So there is a part in the guidance that's active, that's given to that side, is left to the person, that person has to bring something onto the table to be able to be guided. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, and I think that's very important. That's something that we will need to repeat again and again, because the guidance, the wisdom, and the mercy is available always, all the time, everyone. What makes the difference is our response. How much are we participating? How much are we willing? How much are we choosing to access that guidance and mercy and to benefit from it? Is everything okay?
Do you mean in terms of sound?
Yeah.
Now, it wasn't always, but now your voice is very clear now. Now it's again a little bit rocky now.
Okay, it disconnects, but it came back. So the muhsin, the being muhsin, is the one who worships God as though he sees him. When you are at that state of being, that quality encompasses the other qualities. You already are a surrenderer, a believer, God conscious, and all of those. However, someone who has surrendered may not be a believer yet. And of course, the surrendering must be like the first stage, because when we say surrender, the process of surrendering is not a one-time event. It's a life journey. And it's going to require persistent choices. Choices are always consistent with the same choosing to surrender again and again. And then that should take us to something higher, which is to believe. So we understand this also from the Quran. There is a verse in the Quran, in verse of chapter 49, where it says that the Bedouins say, "We have believed." قالت الأعراب آمنا. Say, you have not yet believed. You should say, we have surrendered. So this surrender, if belief is still not there, it means this surrender is the first step of surrender. It cannot be the full, complete surrender of the muhsin, for instance. And so it says, you have not believed yet. You should say rather, true faith has not yet entered your hearts. But if you truly pay heed unto God and his apostle, he will not let the least of your deeds go to waste. For behold, God is much forgiving, a dispenser of grace. So there is thing on, and here it's understood because these Bedouins, Al-Arab, they still holding on to beliefs that are in contradiction with believing in God alone, trusting God only. They were still believing in tribalism, which means my tribe is better than your tribe, which would be like now, you know, my whatever nationality or ethnicity or something is better than yours, and they were taking pride in their descent and all that. So they had beliefs that were contradictory to believing in God alone. Because if we believe in God alone, then as a result, everyone is going to be equal before God. So this surrender can only be the beginning of surrender, because they have intended to surrender, but without belief, without iman, the surrender is going to remain incomplete in the sense of the surrender to God. However, choosing, again, there is a disconnect. Can you hear when there is a disconnect?
Actually, your voice is not 100% for the last couple minutes. I wanted to ask you if you can also record, just in case I gave you the so just in case from your voice might be better recorded on your side. If you could hit the button to record. Yeah, you have the permission to do so.
So, however, the very fact that we choose to surrender at the beginning, when it is small, very, very important, because the more we surrender, the easier it's going to believe. And of course, the belief is not going to come automatically. We will still have to choose to believe. But when we are in a state of surrender, it's easier to choose to believe if we choose to do so. But remember, all these things are choices, which is great. It's great because there's no reason to surrender, and there are all the reasons to choose so, and there is no reason not to. But still, there is no compulsion. No one makes us surrender. No one can make us believe. We have to make that choice ourselves, which is empowering at the same time, because at the end of the day, if we don't like what's going on in our life, then we can always change the course of our life. If I think I'm not surrendering enough, I just stop and pause and reflect and make a decision to surrender. And it will be made easy. And then when the surrender is made easy. It is made easy to see and to choose, to decide if we choose to do so.
Sister Yamina, could I again ask you if I am following you? So let's say sometimes in life, let's say I'm trying to really get somewhere. I really want to, achieve something, and I keep encountering blocks and challenges. I want something really bad, and for some reason, the path to that thing is hard. And then once, as I'm getting it, it's bringing more stress. So finally, at some point, I mean, I can push this battle, but sometimes at some point, sometimes I realize that, listen, a part of me really wants this thing, but I think this is not good for me, right? And I surrender to that fact that, I thought this would bring more peace to my life and so on, but it actually, this kind of attitude is not helping. And at some point, just I surrender. I don't like the fact that it's not working the way I'm planning or I'm wanting, but okay, I say, enough with going against the stream. This is not how it's meant to be. Okay, fine. So I surrender. So this initial level of surrender is in a way breakthrough, because once I am out of that zone of fighting and anger, then I can say, okay, fine. Okay, if this is, if I'm not fighting, then I can be more positive and actually see the resources to deal with my need in a different way, in a more peaceful way, more productive way. So this initial moment of surrendering and saying, okay, fine, I am not running this show clearly, and I don't have all the clues, and I don't know everything, even though I want to pretend I do. So fine, I don't know everything, and I give up to pretend that I know everything. I clearly don't know whether this is good or not for me. So that moment of surrender is kind of the initial surrender that you're talking about. But then it's not full surrender, because I'm not yet recognizing that this surrender is not just an initial kind of, okay, fine, I accept kind of thing, but it's beyond that, because real surrender comes with iman, with this security, this awareness that yes, I don't know, but somebody else knows, and I do trust in that knowledge.
For example, you realize that it's not only that you do it, I surrender, but you start realizing when you stop the surrender, then you can realize.
Could you say that again, Yamina? Your voice is breaking again.
When you stop and surrender, and so you have that moment of peace when you can question yourself, like, whatever I wanted in my life so bad, actually, is it true that this thing will bring me peace or happiness or whatever I wanted from it? I don't know. I just assumed that it would.
Oh, Sister Yamina went offline. Okay, she's back, I think.
Thing that I assumed will bring me peace or joy or whatever I assumed. Usually it's peace and joy and happiness. But actually, when I give up and surrender, I also realize that actually I don't know. Actually, how can this thing bring me anything? And actually, I start finding peace in the surrender itself rather in the thing I was struggling for. And so when this is a level of surrender that is more conscious and that is going, that there is more taqwa in it, I'm getting away from shirk, from associating some powers to things themselves. Some situation is going to be the source of peace and happiness for me. That's a road leading to shirk, to associating partners with God. And so the surrender opens the door, the possibility of traveling the path of belief, of iman. And then I start seeing that clearly is no reason I can be peace and happy if I decide to do so. And it is when we are in that surrender that sometimes what we wanted come, or sometimes something better, or then we start realizing that there is something else going on apart from my plans about life and about what should be or shouldn't be. So surrender is the door. I need to surrender first so that I can have that peace and that clarity to believe. And when I choose to believe, and that requires intention and awareness, then that is the journey towards ihsan, towards living in the presence of God.
Sister Yamina, where does signs, ayat, indications fit in here? So I surrender, and then I choose to believe, Where does
the whole journey, when I surrender, in that surrender, peace comes. That's a sign. I give up the struggle for something that I wanted very much. And there I realized that who said that that thing would bring me something? So those things become not the source of happiness, the source of providing, the source of wealth and whatever we need, source of my needs, but only means. So it opens the possibility for things, for me to interact with things as times as things in themselves for themselves.
So I was wondering, how do you surrender? And so, I mean, what is surrendering? So
surrendering looks like something active, but actually it is when we stop. Issa used the word give up. When we give up struggling, when we give up resisting, it really inwardly it is more passive than active. But normally we are very active, doing lots of things that go against the surrender. And when we stop all those, when we give up the struggle, and I have to do it, and all those things, and that's the surrender. I could be doing the same thing again, but not with that belief that I have to have it. So it's a way of being. And definitely it will have outward signs as well, because you want to get stressed, and because when we pause, sometimes we see the shortest path to go to where we actually intended to go. But when we're struggling, we don't always see it.
So it looks to me that surrendering is like a realization where a person realizes that that which I wanted is not the source of providing me with mercy or what's.
That realization is it's a higher level of surrender. There is the surrender that Isra just talked about is even before that. You don't realize anything, you just feel overwhelmed and you give up. It's just too much to bear and give up. That's the first surrender.
So give up as in what? Like give up on that which you are after? Like
or that which, or you still want it in your heart. It's the beginning, not the end. It's a process, a life journey. In the beginning, it could be a surrender. I still want it in my heart, but at least I surrender. I give up fighting and struggling, and sometimes there is nothing to do. We're still worrying and fearing and what if, and sometimes we did everything we could do, and now it's time to wait. When we are not in a state of surrender, we cannot just wait in peace. That's it. There is nothing else to do, but still we are thinking what if, and fearing and imagining all kinds of negative scenarios and all kinds of things, for instance. So it's not always something that is being done. Actually, most of what's going on in our life, the source of our stress and fears and things, are not things happening in the world. Before that, they are happening. Does it make sense?
It did, and somehow your voice is breaking up. But so now, like you said, that there are like phases of surrendering. So like as Isra mentioned at first, that just giving up. So I'm just wondering, give up as in, let's say you have you want to achieve a goal, and then you just give up on that goal, or you question yourself, is this goal realistic or not?
And maybe
not necessarily giving up on the goal, because giving up on the goal or questioning the goal is a higher level of awareness and a higher level of surrender. But in the beginning, when we first surrender, we may be still in our heart, still longing for the goal, but at least we realize that there is no point in imagining and fearing, and especially it's clearer when in situations where there is nothing to do, but I'm still not at peace. Because so much that the imagining that I may not reach that goal itself becomes a source of pain. But of course, this level, when I give up at this level, it is still not surrender with awareness, surrender with belief, because there is still some shirk going on, some attributing power to some goal in my life, as if with that goal achieved, I will have peace and happiness, and without it, something will be missing in my life. That goal is taking care of my needs. So I'm still not realizing that my needs are being taken care of by means of something in this world, but the things themselves are not what takes care of my needs. So things will be still given later, but I will be much more peaceful because I will interact with them as gifts, as blessings, as rahmah, as signs, as messengers. And so that becomes the journey from surrender to is living with the awareness that everything is a sign, everything is a message bearer from God. Everything is a blessing, a token of love and mercy from God. That's why it says repeatedly in the Quran that, well, at least in one area, God's mercy is very close to the muhsins. So that journey from surrender to ihsan goes through iman, through belief.
Sister Yamina, could I add here an observation? In the verse that you cited, where the Bedouins say, we have believed, and they're told to say not that they believed, but they surrendered. The question that Sister Fariha was asking, what is that surrender to? It's unspecified in that verse. It's just saying, say we surrendered, and faith has not entered into your hearts. I'm comparing that with another verse in Surah Baqarah, 2nd chapter, when Abraham is told to surrender. I'll cite that verse, quote that verse. It says, when his sustainer said to him, surrender yourself unto me, he, Abraham, answered, I have surrendered myself unto the sustainer of all the worlds. So it's not just surrender, I have surrendered, but he's specifying, what are you surrendering to? Like, it could be said that in the initial...
He's aware what he's doing.
Yeah, so it's a higher level of surrender. In the initial level, perhaps we're just surrendering in the sense of we're giving up playing God, playing that we are self-sufficient and we can handle our lives on our own and we run the show. And that's all an illusion, but our ego, our nafs wants to kind of claim that we're in the self-sufficient and so on. And then the first level of surrender is saying, no, I'm not self-sufficient. I am dependent. it's not clear to whom, to what I'm surrendering, but I'm giving up that silly image that I have of myself, that I am in charge. I am not in charge. Okay, and that's a very vague sense of surrender. Like, what are you really surrendering to? But then, as Iman, belief through the signs, seeing the signs, and that peace as a sign as well comes in, then it becomes clearer to what am I surrendering. Like Abraham, he's saying, I am surrendering. He doesn't say, I surrender to you. He's saying, I am surrendering to the sustainer, Rabbul Alameen, of all the worlds. So that requires security, that there is a sustainer of all the worlds. All these things are running because there is one sustainer behind the scenes.
He knows who his sustainer is.
Sister Yamina, your voice stopped. Are you speaking? I'm not able to hear anything. Okay, so there is some internet challenges today. I guess that's maybe another reminder that we really don't have control over things as we plan and hope. Sometimes even for Quran study. Is waiting for Sister Yamina to come back online. Is there anyone who wants to share on this subject? Any comments? Any question?
I was a bit confused about the terms that were used, because when you say that testing or surrendering, the first stage is stopping the struggle. I just thought maybe it wasn't very clear, struggling against what and surrendering to what, but you also said that in the first stage you're not sure what you're surrendering to, or you don't have a clear idea. But at the same time, we talk about how important it is to be in a constant struggle against our egos. Or you were talking about, like giving up the struggle to achieve something, but achieve what? Is it, are you talking about strictly worldly things, or is it to achieve a higher understanding of truth, for example? That, I mean, the two would be very different. That's why I'm a little bit confused. I don't know if I could explain my question at all.
Yeah, I think That's a good question, and I think that's what Fariha was suggesting earlier as well. What does that surrender entail? And I think Sister Yamina was saying that it's not necessarily giving up a particular goal, but it is giving up that that claim, that struggle against the notion that I know the best and I can do things should be by the way I want them to be, and so on. At least that's how I am understanding. And the interesting thing here is, in this particular verse, it's talking to Bedouin, saying, you haven't, belief haven't really entered into your hearts. But in the hadith about Gabriel talking about belief and surrender, belief comes before surrender. So I don't know. Maybe we should have a separate teleconference on this connection between belief and surrender in the future.
Because she also said that it's more like a passive thing, like you stop that struggle. The active, you stop the active struggle. But I mean, from what I understand, all that counts from us is our effort. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because it is definitely effort and choice, and it's an active process. We can't be lazy about it. At the same time, the central notion is of surrender. And surrender is something that you kind of, it in itself, it's an act of letting go, rather than just kind of holding on. So it's interesting that at the heart of what Quran is calling to us is surrender. Abraham is named like that. Islam and Muslim. Yeah, I guess this is Sister Yamina, so I'll take the call. Hello? Yes. Surrender. Tamam. I think we're going to try to talk a little bit, but I don't know for how long. So come back. But if you're not there, then we're not there. Okay. Khair, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum. So it looks like Sister Yamina has a problem with the internet. It might be a regional thing. It happened earlier this week as well in her area. So we can continue talking a little bit among ourselves, and then we may close tonight's session on that note. So we were talking about surrender, and it's an interesting, very interesting and important concept, because as Isma said, belief is active process. It requires awareness, consciousness, active choice, and a struggle in a way for spiritual growth. At the same time, at the core, there's this concept of surrender, that letting go, and that can't be done in a busy, active way. It has to come with this, letting go and literally surrender. And I myself, for a long time, had a challenge with this surrender term, because I felt like too, I don't know, too passive, and it just didn't fit the way I was understanding religion. And I remember one of my professors, my advisor, I was a student at the time, he said, he wasn't Muslim, but he said, surrender, that idea, that notion, just, giving up and letting go. We were talking about something else. And I felt, I vividly remember that moment, because I said, okay, here he's making a positive reference to a key thing in the Quran, assuming that as a Muslim, I would kind of pick it up and say, oh yeah, but in my heart, I'm not sure what does this surrender business mean. And I think after a couple years, at some point in a study circle, this notion of surrender came up. Let me just share it with you. A friend said, Sister Maha, she said, the surrender here is not surrender that happens by force and grudgingly. And it's not, as I understand, it's not also something just like laziness. It's really something like when you get to know somebody, you're first cautious. You don't know if you can fully trust this person, or kind of be open and frank with the person. And you are kind of more formal. And there is a threshold after which you kind of let go of your inner defense. And that from that moment on, you feel like we are friends. So that you cannot have that friendship, that closeness, if you don't let go of, you don't surrender at some point. So in that context, it had a very positive connotation for me, that surrender is not this kind of running away from the battle, or being lazy, or being kind of defeated. It's more a letting go that allows us to be receptive to the compassion, to the grace that's flowing. These are just kind of at the spur of the moment I'm sharing. I don't know if it is resonating with any of you.
I mean, the way I can put them together in my mind is, I guess, the way I understand the first step of surrender is to accept creation, to accept our lives and the universe as it is, and to stop getting mad at our past. Or I guess that's maybe she was trying to say that, worrying about the future and the past. That's actually accepting our reality, maybe, as it is. But at the same time, it requires a struggle against the side of us that wants to keep battling, that wants to keep saying, why is creation this way? Couldn't it have been better? Couldn't life be easier? Why are things not just? Why are all these things that are happening in life and in the world that I don't like? So it requires a struggle against that side of us in order to be more accepting and stop fighting and trying to see the wisdom and beauty behind it. And that's how I see the active and passive within each other. after all this talk. Does it make sense?
It does to me. So there is a level of an initial letting go that becomes a breakthrough, after which we start seeing the indications that yes, somebody knows everything and has much better understanding and power than I claim to have. It's not even my power, but that's a journey. And then as that happens, the trust comes more easily, that we trust more, and then surrender becomes easier. I think that's what Sister Yamina was also suggesting, that it becomes easier to surrender, because you're seeing indications and signs all around you that the being that you're surrendering to is worth surrendering to, that does have the compassion and wisdom that encompasses everything.
And perhaps the next dimension would be, even when we're struggling in search of the truth, or when we're struggling to purify ourselves, realizing that it is not within our power to find the truth and to find guidance. So letting go from the claim that I will find the truth and I will be guided and I will purify myself, but at the same time not letting go of the struggle to keep on that path. Because I think the key point is not attributing ourselves as the source of that struggle, of the effort that we're showing. Understanding that even when we're showing the effort, we're blessed with the effort. We're blessed with that guidance. Or we're blessed with we're given the desire to show that effort. So maybe it's kind of like working for food and cooking and whatnot, but not saying that I'm the provider. So the letting go part is the letting go of the claims of divinity of our ego, while not letting go of the effort. And maybe the effort, we can call it prayer, physical and verbal prayers.
Thank you very much, Isma, for sharing that. On that note, shall we close tonight's session? Sister Yamina had said she would come back on if the internet comes back, but I don't think it came back. So are there any final comments or questions that we can carry to next class?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, Sister Jelina.
I just got this surrender, that this surrender is a good thing, and I hear when we speak and we say it sounds like quitting or giving up, but we realize it's not that. This surrender is realizing that Allah is El Ghani, dependent on nothing. We are the dependent ones. Allah is independent, dependent on nothing. So, and for us, if we try to hold our breath, like it says, we plan, but Allah is the best of planners. So if we're planning to hold our breath, eventually we have to not hold our breath and take a breath, because we are dependent. So we make plans. Allah is the best of planners. We're great, but we have to surrender and know that this dependence on our Creator is 24/7. It's like every nanosecond. It's like every pulse of blood through our veins. This is a surrender because we are the created thing and Allah is the creator. So alhamdulillah for our plans, and alhamdulillah to know that it's all very temporary. And this surrender, when I realize that, it just feels good. It feels like a good thing. That's my share.
Thank you very much, Sister Jelena. Indeed, initially we are very scared of kind of letting go and surrendering, but actually it's this very good thing because it's great that I'm not in charge. It's great that someone with infinite power and compassion is in charge, and wisdom and knowledge, all comprehensive. So, alhamdulillah, yes.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, so thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. Alhamdulillah, we had a journey in through the Quran and through looking into Surah a little bit more. And inshallah, have a beautiful week. And next week is our teleconference week. The first week of every month we have a teleconference. So inshallah, we'll meet you at the teleconference.